Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Safeera?
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm well. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Thank you for joining me today. It's such an honor to have you here today.
You're most welcome.
Safeera, tell me, who is Safeera Kaka, and what was the chapters that that was compiled in making you who you are today?
Quite a question. I'm usually the one on the other side of the mic.
I think I'm going to enjoy this then.
So I'm Safeera. I come from a really small town. I got married in Johannesburg. I've been here many years. I started a career in radio about 2 decades ago. And you know, the thing about radio is the radio bug bites.
Yes, yeah.
So I was at CRI in 2004. And then in 2011, I started my show, which is Lifestyle with Safeera Kaka.
Yes.
And that has been like my baby.
Okay.
It's an extension of me. I've been busy with that for the last 13 years. It's 4 times a week, a radio program. I get a lot involved in community outreach, community work. This year I was super brave.
Yes.
I started my podcast, The Chai Lounge. I wrote a book, a children's book, and I went for Hajj. So those are the different facets of me. And I'm currently busy making sourdough bread.
Oh, wow.
To de-stress from everything.
That sounds so amazing. So what was the inspiration behind your podcast, the transition from being a broadcaster to a podcaster?
Sure. What an interesting question. People think it's the same field. It really isn't. So I did my show for, as I said, 13 years. I've always been in Islamic media. I do find it still very, very rewarding. But I needed to be taken out of my comfort zone. It got a little bit too comfortable with doing my show. And in lockdown, I actually had a whole idea that I'm going to do my podcast. And I just didn't have the courage to start it. And this year, for some reason, I said, I'm done talking about it. Podcasting is taking off in a very big way in South Africa, as you know. And I just decided to start it. And, you know, when we do things that scare us, it's usually the most successful.
Yes,
Alhamdulillah, I'm sure you know. So it's been amazing. It's been a lovely transition. It's been very different. I'm more candid on the podcast about topics that I feel closely about. I also have people from different backgrounds joining me. And it's just been fantastic. I'm so grateful for the response that I've had to it so far. I didn't expect the response that I did have, but alhamdulillah, it's been good.
Alhamdulillah, that's great. So what are the, it must take a lot of bravery to deal with the topics that you deal with, breaking barriers and the taboo topics.
Yes.
How do you navigate through those challenges or difficulties when dealing with that?
Sure. I think you could say I'm a bit of a controversial character.
Okay.
So when I started my radio show, I was in my 20s still. And, you know, there were topics discussed that I didn't feel resonated with me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, I was navigating marriage and motherhood and career and identity. Like, who are we as Muslim women, you know? And my intention was always to tackle topics that I personally would find interesting. And initially there was a lot of backlash because I took on very controversial topics, very candidly talked about things like sexuality in the Muslim community, marriages, abuse. And it got me into a lot of hot water, you know. Initially it used to bug me and affect me. And I'd be like, oh my God, people don't like me. And now I think with all the years that have gone by, I've developed quite a thick skin. And I realized that some people will genuinely criticize a show that you're doing, and it comes from a good place.
Yes.
They may not exactly have the best way of bringing their message across, but it comes from a good place. Perhaps you are making a mistake. We're all human.
Yes.
And others will just not like something you do because your name is attached to it. Like, people will just not like you. And that's okay. I'm fine with it. I've developed a thick skin, as I said. If my topics don't resonate with you, if it's not something you enjoy, go to another station.
Yes.
You can switch off your receiver. You can listen to something else. I'm going to continue to talk about topics that I feel strongly about and I find interesting. And hopefully, even if I have one listener and it's informed them or it's changed them or it's changed their perspective on the topic, then I've done my job. And I'm good with that space I'm in at the moment. Not to say it doesn't hurt. Obviously, you know, sometimes those harsh critics can
Yes, I'm sure.
creep into the DMs, and you're sitting there and you're like, it's like a punch to the stomach.
Yeah.
You just kind of regulate and say, you don't like me, it's okay. It's okay. We're all entitled to our opinion.
That's so true. You said that this year, every year is for growing, but specifically this year for you was about blooming. What did you mean by that?
Sure. So the last few years have been difficult and challenging for me personally. And we took a holiday in December. And on New Year's Day, we were in George, and we just stopped the car because I had to say goodbye to the ocean one last time. I'm a water baby through and through. And I just saw the sun peeking out from the clouds, and it was like this ray of sunshine over the ocean. And something in me stirred, and I said, this year, this is going to be my year. And I saw this quote somewhere, and I said, every year is for growing, but this year is my chance to bloom. 4 days after that, Alhamdulillah, we got accepted for Hajj. And with that came a lot of blessings. I started my podcast a month after that. I decided to write a book.
Wow.
And I just feel like this is my era of blooming. Every year we want to grow, we want to do this. And I just want to bloom, and I want to do things I love, and I want to share my ideas with the world. And that for me is blooming. And I think the apex of that, the climax of that was my Hajj. It just changed everything for me. And what an incredible year. I think I'll be an old woman, inshallah, if I make it to that
Still
point.
remembering this year.
And I'll look back on 2024, not 2004, and say that was my year.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Your Hajj journey, what did it teach you in terms of your emotional growth or your spiritual growth? What was it for you that stuck with you?
I don't want to cry on a podcast. Hajj was everything. Hajj was about dua. It was about the fact that when you're a guest of Allah, He takes care of you before you leave. He takes care of you when you're there. It was about going onto the plains of Arafat and knowing your duas are going to be accepted, and asking and begging and pleading Allah to just make life amazing, and asking for things from the depths of your heart. And it was about sisterhood, and it was about love. It was a journey of love for me. Some of us, sometimes you find Allah on the plains of Arafat. Other times you just find Him on a day where you're tired and you're thirsty, and somebody comes with a car and they just give you water. And it was that manifestation of Allah's love and the realization that I think spiritually I was not at my best before I went for Hajj. But He calls you irrespective of who you are, where you are in your journey. And it stirred something in me. It stirred something in me to realize that, we are so small, we're so insignificant, but He takes care of us, even the most sinful of us. He takes care of us. He answers our du'as. And it was that reignition of that connection to Allah, which was beautiful. My Arafat day was amazing. It was me crying and probably looking like a hobo if any of you saw me on that day. It was emotional, but it was a journey of love. It was a journey of dua. It was a journey of hopefully positive change. Always reflect on it with the best of memories.
That sounds so incredible, really. Tell us a little bit more of the book that you embarked on writing. When does it come out?
Baby.
Yeah?
This is a very prototype of the book. So it's not currently completed. I just got this from the printers, and I'm still deciding on paper and everything. So everything changed on October the 7th, I think, for everyone, in the sense where the war broke out, genocide happened. We changed our habits. None of us are the same. We don't consume the same. We don't consume social media the same way we did. Something stirred within us. Something changed within us. And I was watching my little niece. She's so adorable. We call her Poppy. And she loves books. So one Sunday she comes to me. She's like, Sophie, read me a book. And I thought, I want to share a story with her. I want to preserve her innocence because this beautiful Masoom child. But I wanted to also know that there's something happening in the world. And the story develops in my mind. And I'm like, I write the story in my mind, how it's amazing. And then I go and I type out this entire story, and I'm like, I will never share this with anybody. This is my story, and I'm going to print it for her, and I'm going to share it with her. And my son read it, And my husband read it and they're like, Saf, I think the story needs to be shared.
Yeah.
And I said, do you guys think so? Because my writing for me is very personal. It's something I do only for myself.
Okay.
And I gave it to a friend or two and they said, no, you need to share this story.
Yeah.
It was a very vulnerable moment because, you're putting yourself and your work out there. And I said, okay, I'm not doing it for me. We need to retake our own narratives back. Along that time that Miam Bailik she was promoting a book from the Israeli perspective about the war currently happening. And very popular authors, J.K. Rowling, I used to read her books.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, turns out to be a Zionist. So I said, if we want to create the alternative, we should do it in every sphere. We've realized that businesses we've been supporting for years are pro-genocide. And let's support our own businesses. Let's make our own businesses. And then we delve into this very, unfamiliar territory of writing a children's book. And I'm doing it for my niece, and I'm doing it also as part of a legacy, because part of my year of blooming is leave behind a good legacy. And I want children to pick this up. And it's not done in a very gruesome way. It's done in a very fantasy type of way.
Yes, yeah.
You've seen the book. And I want children to understand that mighty things are possible when we rely on patience, prayer, and perseverance.
Yes.
And it's my love letter to Palestine, which you, all of us, hold so dear to our hearts. And hopefully, inshallah, years to come, people can pick up this book and say, this is a story of what happened. It's done in a way that's very rich with metaphors.
Yes.
And I hope children enjoy it, inshallah. Proceeds of the book are going to go to the children of Palestine, of Gaza. And that's my story on writing the book.
I'm sure it would be a great success. Your intention is so beautiful with it.
It's very scary how I decided to self-publish. I don't know why. So I've got quite a few gray hairs developing this concept, but alhamdulillah, I hope it's successful.
I'm sure it will, inshallah.
Ameen.
There's something that you said that's so profound and it stuck with me. You said to me that everyone has a battle that you don't or you know nothing about. Tell me more. Why is that so important to you?
So working in the field that I work, I'm a free therapist.
Yes.
People will message me and they'll tell me about what's happening with their lives, and they'll basically trauma dump.
Yes.
And before, it would be something that I could disassociate with greatly. But as I said, last few years have been challenging for me in a personal capacity. And, looking at what everybody is going through, something shifted post-COVID as well. People have been maybe on a journey of self-healing. People have realized mentally, physically, financially, people are going through so much. And I just realized that everybody is going through something.
Yes.
We may look like we have everything together. We may be in the public eye and we look like everything is smooth sailing, but we're going through something. And we hide. Just because we hide it well doesn't mean it's not there. And basically, my idea is to firstly talk candidly about topics like mental health. People are struggling with anxiety and depression, and also making people understand that you're going through something, yes, but it doesn't have to define you. Allah will take that difficulty eventually away from your life. It doesn't have to define you. It can make you better. It doesn't have to make you bitter as a human being. It doesn't have to be something that becomes the defining event that just makes you who you are. You can choose to heal. You're not responsible for your trauma, but you are responsible for your healing.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, we have resources available that we've never had before. We have people in the mental health space. We have people in every space. Muslim women are doing amazing things. Not only Muslim women, and if you really want to genuinely improve yourself, you can go to YouTube, you can go to TikTok. And don't let this difficulty, this musibah, this painful experience define you. Choose your healing. Choose to heal for yourself, for your personal growth. If you're stuck in the pain, in the depression and the anxiety and the sadness, from year to year, it will only get worse. It only gets worse. Life does not get better for anybody. The difficulties, the challenges, we are temporary in this world. Allah is going to continuously bring something in our path to remind us that this world is not for us. We are visitors in this world. So don't let it define you. As much as we can do, we will help people to go through this and provide you with resources. And again, just to reiterate, your trauma is never your fault, but your healing is your responsibility.
Definitely. I think perfection is an illusion,
100%.
Yeah. You also spoke about defining factors in life. And I know one of your strong quotes is that where you come from doesn't define who you're going to be. Why is that so strongly one of your famous quotes?
Again, we don't choose our childhood. We don't choose our parents. We don't choose things that have happened to us when we were younger. We don't choose our current circumstances. Sometimes it's through our choice. Sometimes it's through marriage. Sometimes it's life just deals you one blow after the other. And I feel very strongly about the fact that where we come from shouldn't define us. It doesn't matter who your parents were. It doesn't matter what had happened to you. In the greater scheme of things, obviously, it mattered to you at that moment. It matters to you as an adult. You need to deal with it. Your healing, again, is your responsibility to get yourself to grow, to be in a better space. But don't let anything define you. Don't let a loss define you. Don't let a poor childhood define you. Don't let poor financial circumstances define you. You can break through that. And I'm a person, without giving too much away, that proof that sometimes, there's difficulties. There's things that happen. There's things that you wish were a little bit different. But just break through that. The only limitations we impose on ourselves are the only limitations that exist are the ones that we impose on ourselves. The ones that we consciously say, I can't do this. I can't do this. Once you break through that mindset and know that everything is limitless, you can achieve anything you put your mind to, number one. Number two, through dua, and be audacious with your dua. Ask Allah for anything. You can get there. You can get to a better place, and you don't have to let this thing that happened to you, or this poor childhood, or this financial circumstance define you as a person. You can break through it.
So what would be your proudest achievement then?
Oh my gosh. I'm often scared of proud achievements. I don't sit with an achievement. I always want to go to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Though.
I would say my grateful moments was definitely just getting to the plains of Arafat, bringing back to Hajj, and having this book in my hands.
Yes,
because this was an idea in my mind, and seeing it come to life was surreal. It was a surreal experience, and I think I shed maybe 10 tears or more. Yeah. But that was a good moment for me. A grateful moment for me.
That's great. And your biggest failure and something that you've learned from it?
To be honest with you, I think we all fail at something, whether it's our grades, whether it's a business that we start and think we're going to make millions and then it fails. Those are all I know well enough to know that everybody goes through that. What I regard as personal failures is when I didn't do good by someone, if I've hurt someone. And personal failures for me are also times when I faltered in my connection with Allah, and I faltered in my duties as a Muslim, and I faltered in what I was supposed to do as a Muslimah, and I didn't because I was maybe lazy or depressed or angry, whatever. And for me, those are my personal failures that keep me up at night.
I think they're personal gains because you're reflecting really well on them.
And then it's always I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. The failures that we have, the businesses, that everybody goes through it. And there's always, it's a stepping stones to success. So I don't regret those. It doesn't keep me up at night. It's the big ones. Yeah. Where did you fail humanity? Did I not do a good job on my show today? I failed my listeners. Those are the ones that pain.
Yeah, I'm sure. To close off today, what would the words of wisdom be that you would like the listeners to take away?
Oh, words of wisdom would be, again, I think just going into our discussion today and a few of the lessons that I learned from this year. And the first one is that, number one, gratitude is everything. Being grateful for who we are, for what we have, everything big and small. Just make gratitude something that you adopt every single day of your life. Number two is that if you have a dream, even if it's an idea, action your dream. Even if you're working on it 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a month, 5 minutes a year, work towards your dream. It's achievable. It's your dream. Number 3, don't let people define you. What people think about you, what they say about you, what they gossip about you, what they perceive you to be is not your business.
Yeah.
Who you are is your business. Mm-hmm. What you are, the person you look at in the mirror every day should be a happy person, a person that makes you happy in your soul. And don't compete with the next person. Comparison is the thief of joy. Yeah. We go into social media, we look at her, we're like, oh my God, I wish I was this person. You don't know the struggles they have. You wouldn't want their struggles. Compete with yourself. Am I a better person than I was last year? Yeah. Have I achieved my goals mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? How do I get better in these fields? How do I make myself better? My last 2 is that the limits only exist, as I said, the ones that we impose on ourselves, and that I can't do this. You can do it. You can do it. You are a creation from Allah Ta'ala. Yeah. He has placed you on this earth. He has given you a beautiful mind. He has given you a talent that nobody else has. Some people often come to me and they say, Saf, I can't do this business. 5 people are doing it. And I say, no, 5 people are doing it, but you're not doing it. It doesn't have your personal touch on it. Do it. Go for it. Achieve your dreams. It's becoming easier in the sense where resources are readily available. Yes. On social media, you can teach yourself anything. I go to Harvard and I read Harvard business articles because they're there. Yeah. And I always, as a kid, dreamt like one day, inshallah, I want to go to Harvard University. Yeah. It exists. So don't impose limitations on yourself. Surround yourself with positive go-getter energy. Mm-hmm. I always tell my listeners, when you're spending the whole day in a manure factory, that's what you're going to smell like. Yes. If you're spending the whole day in Baccarat Rouge place, you're going to smell like Baccarat Rouge. Yeah. But that's exactly what I'm saying, is that get yourself with good, positive energy and be absolutely audacious with dua. Yeah. Ask Allah Ta'ala for anything big or small. It doesn't matter who you are. We all sin. We all have to improve that connection with Him. But I've learned this through my Hajj, is that turn to Him. He will answer our needs, big or small. So that's my message.
That's some impactful advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Very beautifully said.
Thank you so much for inviting me to the space. I also just want to use 5 minutes to ask everybody to make dua for the success of my book.
Inshallah.
And please, if you have the opportunity, purchase the book. It's really a passion project. Yeah. It was blood, sweat, and tears that I poured into it. And it will be available soon, inshallah.
Inshallah. I'm going to get the copy first.
Definitely a signed copy for you.
Thank you. Jazakallah. Thank you so much for being here today. It was such an honor to have you.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wish you all the best with your podcast, and you're going to do great things, inshallah. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.